So we have a great show for you today. The election's coming up in just a few days, and it's really important that we get things right when we approach that voting booth. So we're going to cover some of the issues. We'll look at some strong opinions that are out there, and we'll also give some recommendations on call to action, things you should do. What do you think, Michael?
First of all, make sure you vote. Don't stay home.
Absolutely.
And make sure you register to vote.
And now for the show. Michael, let's start with a prayer.
Amen.
Amen. Father in heaven, please bless this channel and this show to do what is your will. Help us to reflect on the needs of our country as this election comes near, and keep us all safe as well.
Amen.
Amen.
I ask the Lord to send His Holy Spirit into our hearts and our minds and give us the speech that will help people understand what's at stake. We ask this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Mike.
Yeah.
Michael. It's going to be hard to remember that.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Because you called me Mike for a long time.
Yeah, I did that. Right. Exactly. So anyway, we have a big topic this week, Michael.
Yes.
It's election time in the city here.
It's huge. It's so
in
big.
The state and in the country.
It's hard to comprehend. It's so big.
Right. And certainly that's one of the issues, is that people have looked at this as maybe the most momentous election in history for the country. And certainly sometimes it feels that way when you hear the rhetoric start ramping up.
Well, so much of it is hype, and the stories, you don't know what to believe, right? I mean,
right.
The lies, it seems like, where do you find the truth?
Right.
Because that's really, in our faith, we're searching for the truth.
Indeed.
Okay? And if we find the truth, then we know the path that we should follow.
Right. But getting to the truth is not that easy. Apparently, every man thinks they own the truth. But there's those of us out here who are trying to find out what it is.
Right.
And we got a lot of people screaming and yelling at us to help us go their way.
Well, they want to convince us that their truth is the real truth.
Yes. Right.
And so these agendas, sometimes it's very hard for people to discern when somebody's just talking to you, through the screen.
Right.
And they've got all of these little gadgets and videos that they can throw up there to support their opinions, because they're really just opinions.
Yeah, right. They may be informed opinions. They may have a few facts to go along with them.
Right.
But I used to say that opinions are like armpits. We all got a couple of them. Yeah, right. So it is, by most measures, though, a very important election. There's a lot of controversy that swirls around it. We've had one of the candidates fired at once and an attempt in the second time. We've had an unusual change of horses on the other side.
They call that democratic, though.
Well,
when there's a coup, it's democratic.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I guess the national parties are given a lot of flexibility to do some weird things occasionally. So they can decide to change the platform on a whim. They can decide to change candidates apparently on a whim too. Whether that disenfranchises,
without any vote.
Yeah, right.
No vote.
That's right. So it's a little different. It's a special election in that regard. And there's a lot of stuff going on. There's proxy wars in other countries. Mm-hmm. There's trying to assimilate tens of millions of people from other countries into our economy and into our country.
The open border you're talking about.
Yeah. So there's lots of things going on.
Well, we could talk all night over the open border, right?
And we'll get into some immigration issues in a moment. I'm sure. Yeah. One of the things that I find that's interesting, too, though, is that we have this, they call it affective polarization. That's where...
Excuse me?
Affective polarization.
Well, now... What does that mean? I mean, come on. Affective.
This is what
affective.
Affective. A-F-F-E-C. Yeah, right.
Okay, well.
The psychologists have come up with this combination of words, and what it's supposed to indicate is that there's a lot of emotion on both sides, and people are being moved viscerally. By the emotions,
right.
Okay? And not only that, but if you belong to the other side, I don't like you at all.
Right.
Well, I maybe even hate you.
Well, it's more than that. They want to demonize the other side.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The other side is now, and that's both sides do that.
Yes, absolutely.
I think one side does it more than the other,
or maybe even more effectively.
More effectively. Yeah, more effective is for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's all they've got, I think.
Right.
In a lot of ways.
So there's all this, there's a heated situation. A lot of people are feeling things, okay? And we're supposed to be rational creatures. You know, we're not...
when are we rational?
Hopefully most of the time, but or at least we consult on
depending
reason.
On your reality.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, because remember, we got parallel.
That is true. There's some people that don't even believe in reason. I'm sure.
That's right.
So anyway,
they're called Scientologists, right? No,
could be. You know, there's all kind of theories out there.
Sorry.
And then again, we also have the fact that as of the previous presidential election 4 years ago, there's a lot of concern about the process. There were, unusual things. I was sitting here watching the TV, and all of a sudden, Fox News tells me that Arizona has gone to one of the parties, and it was like 3 seconds after the polls closed. And I'm going, that just feels kind of weird,
Well, the other weird thing is, we're going to stop counting, and we'll let you know in the morning what the results are, because we're going to bring in a whole new crew to count.
We'll stop counting, but we're not going to stop counting.
Yeah, the cameras are off. Everybody leaves.
Yeah, I think it was either Michigan or Wisconsin that they put up these black...
Pennsylvania ran them off. They wouldn't let any observers in.
So a lot of that's anecdotal, but some of it's actually very real.
It's documented.
Yeah, that's right. Nearly all the cases were dismissed for lack of standing. But there's still in the craw of some people this concern.
Well, why wouldn't it not be? If you're not able to present your case because you didn't have standing, quote unquote,
right,
then you didn't get to hear the evidence.
Right.
So you don't know.
Yes, it didn't make it to that stage.
It didn't make it to the stage because that was what they wanted to make sure it didn't happen. We don't want any cases.
Oh, that's what we say. They say.
Well,
we don't know.
I'm just going by the evidence.
Yeah, no.
The evidence is they someone made sure that none of these cases would make it to be heard.
Yeah, there seemed to be more the unusual. The verdicts all went in one direction. You don't have standing.
Well, there wasn't a verdict, right? Because a verdict means that you've heard the case.
Yeah, they just threw the case out.
A decision was made by the person who was delegated the authority, which was the judge, and they took that authority and did something with it.
Yeah. So that still is, rearing its head. There have been a number of process changes in some states to try to rectify some of the things they saw as being problematic. There's still a large segment of these so-called mail-out ballots and ballot recruiting. And I saw a video this morning where a gentleman found ballots in the sewer, mail-out ballots in the sewer. And that's kind of weird, This was in California.
Yeah, well, I understand. But what about the place where they've got all these ballots locked in the room and the court said, open it so we can inspect the ballots that you counted, but they won't open the door?
Yeah, right.
Now, to me, that sounds like, well, wait a minute. You won't show me this, even though the court ordered you to. Tells me that there's something wrong with those ballots.
And I think that leads to another point that I didn't have in my head until just now, and that is that there seems to be difficulties with adhering to the rule of law in many places. There were a number of state election processes where they did not follow their own state law.
Correct.
And so that made things... Correct. Certainly anyone who treasures their vote is really concerned about that. Okay.
Absolutely.
And, it's like... Okay, you can raise the price of something up there 5% because inflation, but when you tell me my vote doesn't count, we really get disturbed.
We do have a visceral reaction to that.
Absolutely.
Now, in Louisiana, and that's where we're coming from, right?
Right.
We've actually been breaking the law for decades.
It's not unusual.
It's in the Constitution.
Yes, the one that Edwin Edwards put together, right?
The state Constitution.
Yeah.
It says that all ballots are to be marked in public and to be counted in public.
Right.
You cannot count ballots with a machine.
The public not available.
There's no way to visualize that count in a machine. So our Secretary of States that we've had previously have unknowingly or knowingly just ignored the state constitution. Now, I can't say that it's not even more than that, because the state legislatures that we've had in the past have passed statutes to work around that. We're going to let the machines do this.
Well, we're reading the ballots.
Yeah,
the number of a counter.
That's right. That's right.
So
that's right.
Well, I remember as a child the old days when there was a single lever to vote the rooster. In this state. So we have a past that's colored with lots of interesting voting irregularities and so forth. Right. So then there's the issue, Michael, of where do we go to get information? What are the sources where we can find out what someone really believes, how they really would likely act, how they acted in the past, so we can factor all that in. And there's a lot of, I know, distrust of sources.
So which ones do you use?
This is rather interesting, but I typically get my breaking news from X. And the reason is that if something happens, it shows up on X before it shows up anywhere else. Now, the problem is after that, then it starts getting, into the churn.
It gets a little mushy.
Yeah, it does. Mm-hmm. I do watch the leads of the evening news at 10 to see what the local station is reporting, because I can, get some local news from that. Now, when it comes to national news, I usually go to people who are commentators or critics, and I get most of that off of YouTube, actually, because they're excerpts, because I don't have access to all of the broadcasts. What do you do, Michael?
I use Twitter X. I also look at Funny Book or Facebook a little bit.
Yeah.
The new one, which I haven't been using until just recently, because it hits stuff pretty fast, is Instagram. But it's mostly visual,
Yes,
so it's reels, it's short videos, it's a picture or it's a video, one of those two things.
But it's sort of like the video version of X. It's coming out there fast.
That's right. It's very quick. But I do think there's a lot of censorship, not only in Instagram, but all of the platforms. I mean, that's been proven. Yes. Lots of censorship.
Yeah. Well,
even though Elon's been trying with Twitter X, there's still a lot of shadow banding. There's a lot of things that are not getting out.
Well, and some of the point is that we don't know what the workings are behind all that. No. We did get information that the previous owner, Jack, of X, was doing a lot of heavy-handed stuff, or at least his minions were. We know that Zuckerberg on Facebook was
$500 million,
contributing $500 million to do local things in the politics arena, and so people were playing cards, and they were putting money on the table doing that, so therefore, can you really trust the answers you get when they do that?
Well, the other things that I go to is, the local organizations that you might be able to tap into.
Right.
I wouldn't say that the Republican Party of Louisiana is doing anything other than having cocktail parties. They are not active. How many Trump signs have you seen from the Republican Party? I haven't seen any Trump signs other than the ones that I put out in my own yard.
Right.
Or Harris signs. I have seen one Harris sign.
Yep.
And this is, look at all the energy that's going into this election, and we're not seeing anything locally.
That could be, because they just don't have an interest. It could also be they've just assumed there's an outcome.
Correct.
And that could be true, too, which is a bad thing to do, really.
It is.
Because especially in those 6 or 7 states where the battleground states are going to occur. Some people have given up on Louisiana and say it's going to go red no matter what, but you never should count those eggs.
But, I think in Louisiana, because we have an election process that cannot be audited, now, that is a very serious flaw. And frankly, our national elections cannot be audited.
Because they're
not paper
states.
ballots.
Yeah,
and they're 50 different systems.
Yeah, 50 different systems.
But if they all had to use paper ballots and count them in public, you would have it might take you a little longer if you had to do an audit, but at least you would have something tangible.
Right.
Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that you couldn't stuff the box with a bunch of tangibles, just like they have done in the previous elections with ballots that they sent in through the ballot box, not the ballot box on the day of voting, but the ones that they dropped at night. I mean, you see all the videos of people dropping hundreds of ballots into these things. So,
right. I've always worried about the paper system, unless I was filling out the paper right there at the desk.
Right.
Okay. And then I'm worried about the computer system, because having both of us have extensive computer background, and we know that first, it's hard to get the right answer if you want to. But if you don't want to, it's easy to come in and do some things you might not. Easier, because it's hidden. You can't really see this stuff.
I've worked elections as an election commissioner in the 2016, and then also in the 2022 election. And I worked the day of voting, and in our precinct, they had the older voting machines. It wasn't the screen like you see in the early voting that started today. Those touch screens, that early voting is set up for cheating. Up for cheating.
That's the second point. We talked about the one about paper ballots. We also, I would just wish that, make it a enforced national holiday and people vote on the day of the election.
Agreed.
Okay. Now, you got to be able to deal with people who have a valid infirmity that can't get to the...
And that's there.
And we have a process.
We have a process.
Right. But voting 6 weeks ahead of time, before even all of the issues have been explored adequately is a problematic kind of thing.
And you can't be counting or allowing votes to come in after Election Day like they have in some states. That should be...
Yeah. Now, it's different if you're waiting for overseas ballots to make it here. There might be some week's allowance or something to have to happen. But to let anything... boxes of ballots show up after.
I'm not sure that's true either, Harry, because look...
It shouldn't be necessary.
Well, right now they're allowing people to vote by email when you're outside the country in the military.
Which is absolutely crazy.
Which is crazy, and you don't have an ID.
Right.
You don't know who they are or where they're from.
Yeah, all they need is a valid email.
So, anyway, I'm getting a visceral reaction just to that.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the issues. What do you think is the top issue for Americans in this national election this year?
Well, it's immigration and the economy.
Yeah. What was it? Is the economy stupid? That was a remark from
Carville. He put that in stone, and it's not changed.
It's always
still true. And he's still crazy.
Right.
Sorry, Carville. I mean, just look at yourself.
He's old and crazy now instead of just crazy.
Well, I don't know. I saw a very funny thing the other day. I was slipping through some reels, and they had this replay of the Golden Girls. Was it the Golden Girls? No, it was another one. I think it was Southern Baby or something like that. And the lady was saying, she was talking in a deep Southern accent. She says, I think you're talking about my family being crazy. And she says, in the South, we know everybody's crazy. And it's just a matter on what side it is.
Yes, right.
And so the lady said, well, what side are yours? She said, well, both, of course.
Yeah, we got to cover you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So immigration and economy is up there. Certainly, I know a hot button issue for some people is the life issues. So certainly very Christian, that ought to be a hot button issue. And then also there's the tampering in the global scheme.
Oh yeah.
With these
wars. They're trying to make war.
Yeah.
They're trying to make
unlimited conflicts going on that we seem to play an awkward part in it at best.
Well, we give our money away.
Yes, right.
We give how many, 50 or $100 billion to the Ukraine?
Right,
They've killed 700,000 people over there. Yeah. They're no closer to a resolution.
I used to say that we'll fight to the last Ukrainian. So it's just not good.
Anyway, so I agree. Economy, immigration. The life issue, I think the Democrats try to make that a big deal because they're trying to get the female vote.
Right.
And I think that the fact that Roe v. Wade was pushed back to the states was the right thing to do.
Well, it's
because I don't think a federal no abortion is going to go.
It's got the subsidiarity effect going for it, which is that handle the issues at as low a level as you can possibly handle them. Don't bubble them all up to the national level. Right. Now, it has had some unintended consequences, in fact, because now we have the really, truly blue states have gone off the deep end in terms of recasting their laws to make abortion available.
Even after birth.
Even after birth.
Even after birth. That's
so
right.
they don't call it that. They just
they soft
take
you
care
around
of the baby.
They soft you around it.
So that's the negative side effect. But St. Augustine, it's Thomas Aquinas who would say, you can't legislate against every sin.
No.
So you got to pick your battles. And I think we probably made the right decision here. We just have to work on the hearts and souls of people to move them in the right direction on the life issues. And then those states will change.
If they don't change, they'll become destination abortion.
Yeah. Well, then they probably are that already.
Yeah.
We're all the way at October the 18th now.
Yeah, early voting started today here in Louisiana.
Yeah, right. We'll be issuing this broadcast on the 24th. But,
even closer.
And we're in October, but you think there may be any October surprises left?
Absolutely.
They usually
There's
are.
Always in Octobers. And multiples this year because they think there's a chance that an October surprise is going to make a difference.
Yes. And it could.
Yeah. And I tell you what would make a difference would be war.
Right.
And I think that's what they're headed for.
Well, there are rumors out there that somebody somewhere would like a conflict with Iran, and that would distract everybody from every other thing. And, maybe we even cancel the election because it's so critical, who knows? Those are conspiracy theories, but the conspiracies have been proved right.
I was going to say, I have some people that I follow that have forecast that this will be the last election. That after this, it's...
Well, we have nearly a one...
neither side is going to accept it.
We have a nearly one-party system as it is.
Oh, the uniparty, of course. Of
so
course.
we already have that. But if you would basically throw another X million votes into one side, then you would change things forever, literally.
Yes, you would.
Or at least for generations.
Yes.
Before it can be fixed. So that, if you want to get on a conspiracy, that's a scary one right there.
Well, the 10 to 15 or the 20 million people that have come in illegally they're going to want to try and get all of them to vote.
Right. Yeah.
And I think they're on their way. Based on the numbers that we're seeing of people that are registered that were not citizens.
Yeah, here's the deal.
From swing states.
A lot of states allow anyone to get a driver's license, regardless of status. Mm-hmm. And then many states are incorporating voter registration at the same time.
That's right.
And so
just check a box.
There's your path to potential problems, if not real problems and so forth. Okay, so those seem to be the background material that we're working with for this election.
Which, I'm not sure we got enough time here.
Yeah, so it does paint a picture of a very important election. Okay,
yes.
So
let's get to the core values of each candidate.
Okay, let's look at that. Okay, the parties that are
the parties. If you look at their platforms, I mean,
yes,
it's scary. How many people go read the platform?
I have gone and read the platform.
From each party.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Not the 900-page version, but the shorter version.
Right. I would like the 9-sentence version.
Yes. Yeah, and
9 bullets.
You can hide some things in that, but there are the dog whistles that you can recognize in this.
Sure.
So, for instance, if you go to the Democratic National Convention site and you committee site, you'll find things like reproductive rights.
Sure.
And we know how that translates. That means unfettered abortion.
That's right.
Okay, so...
and funded by the state.
Right. Oh, yes, right. We're going to...
Funded by the state.
Remove the Hyde Amendment is one of the platform planks. And the Hyde Amendment is the one that attempts to keep federal money from going to funded abortions. But they get money anyway.
They do.
They just get it for, we'll give it to you for this. Don't use it for abortions now. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or selling
body parts.
Yeah,
right. So there's that kind of thing there. So certainly that party has the life issues at jeopardy continually. They always, I say always have. They didn't 60 years ago, but they do now.
Well, the Democratic Party 60 years ago is not the Democratic Party.
No, it's not. It was closer
and neither is the Republican Party.
Right, exactly.
But actually, I think if you go to Washington and you go into the Congress, it doesn't matter whether there's an R or a D on any of those guys.
The aisle with their votes all the time.
They're shaking hands in the bathroom saying, okay, Charlie, I'm going to help you and you're going to help me.
You know that bill?
On this one over here. Yeah, okay.
I'll get you $50 million for your new highway.
The collusion and the corruption in D.C. is so wide and so deep. That's got to be a priority for the new administration.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And you make a good issue there. It's not simply just the deals that are being made. It's that Congress has abandoned some of its
it doesn't follow the rules.
Issues. They don't put a budget together anymore that means anything and is balanced. So that's gone by the wayside. They relegate all kinds of things to the state and its bureaucracies, which they really ought to be trying to handle. So that there's a lot of problems in that regard.
So the values we were talking about.
So there's one side here that if on the life issues, for sure, they got a problem. But that extends beyond just the abortion issue. It extends into the issues of dealing with young people who are being directed or influenced into this gender fluidity and gender reassignment and all these other things.
Gender dysphoria, they call it, right?
It's a little different if somebody 30 years old wants to go decide to do something that isn't really a good thing.
Even then, to my way of thinking, there's some serious psychological issues.
You're right.
And these people are not getting help. They're getting channeled. We're going to give you money to help these girls turn into boys and these boys turn into girls. I'm saying, wait a minute.
Now, we used to have a DSM from the psychologists and psychiatrists that actually called this stuff out, but now they kind of wash over all of that and so forth. So, we have, I heard a story the other day. It was that an entire class of children at some school had decided they were something else. The entire class. Now, how's that happening? The only way that's happening is if the schools are allowing that to happen.
Sure, they are.
And they're being encouraged by the Department of Education and
follow the money.
The Title IX stuff.
Where are they getting the money?
Yeah, right.
It's always about the money for those kind of things.
Right. And of course, it matches the ideology for that. So now, I'll bring this up too, though, on the life issues. The Republicans have decided to compromise some from where they were in 2016.
Yes.
Now, it's a pragmatic, compromise, and I think it presents a struggle to Orthodox Christians with how to deal with their candidate that they thought was strongly pro-life, and that is that they've relaxed the platform such that they're allowing, or at least speaking to allowing more exceptions and time intervals that are different than they would have said before. They're not opposed to the pill to abort, which is a serious thing, and in fact has probably. It may supersede the actual numbers of surgical abortion before it's all over with.
Yeah, so, we've had over 60 million of those.
Yeah, so they've tilted that way. They're also pro IVF. They got it listed right there in the platform. We know as practicing Christians that that's problematic, and it's against the life issues. So that's presenting some real heartburn to people who are trying to figure out what to do, isn't it?
Yeah, well, my heart tells me that I go by the old axiom that all politics is local. If you want to make real change,
you do it here.
You do it in your own backyard, which means we got to work with the state legislature here, and they have to feel the heat.
Right.
That if you don't do what we're asking you to do, you're gone.
Right.
And some of that, even though we have term limits in Louisiana, all they do is swing that door open and go in the other door and do something else.
They run for another office.
They run for another office and they get in. See, this needs to be term limits. You're out of government.
Right.
You're not coming back as a lobbyist. And you're not coming back as a senator or a representative in a different district.
Yeah, they need to do the Davy Crockett kind of thing where they show up and serve for a few years.
Then you go back. You go back.
Well, that's another issue.
Local politics, that's where you bring the pressure.
Yes.
So regardless of what the party says, if we've got
what are they doing here? Right.
And if we've got enough strong local politicians, when they get to D.C., they'll make the changes.
Well, one of the things that proves your point here was that we put into law twice in the state of Louisiana provisions that said if Roe v. Wade gets overturned, here's what our law looks like.
Right.
And lo and behold, Roe v. Wade gets overturned, and now we don't have to go back to the legislature and fight some of those battles over again.
Right.
We got others we have to deal with, but we won some of those by being forthright early on.
Well, and also remember, Alabama won their case.
Yes.
All right. And that deals with IVF.
Right.
Right. And so that the fact that that's a life and you can't do anything other than let that life live.
Right.
Is real important.
Yeah. And those are the kinds of, when you get down to that, that's not one of these, we don't have to have a law. We probably need laws to prevent people, because we know that if, people are going to skirt the law, even if there is one. Okay. So, all right. So those are some heartburns that's generated. It would have been easier if that wasn't the case, but we'll have to figure out how to deal with that. Now, I wanted to bring up also the fact that
so that's the life issue on the Democratic side,
yes,
and the Republican side.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the economy, where do you think that's balancing out?
Well, two things. The data that we get from our government is basically mostly lies.
Like the crime statistics that just came out, right?
All the things that they tell us is always skewed to make the current administration look better.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. But everybody that's carrying a job or trying to feed their family or feed themselves knows what's happening.
Yeah, right.
So them telling us on the TV that, don't believe your lying eyes.
Yeah. Right.
No, we don't believe you. You're lying. They're lying to us about the economy.
We have felt that 20% increase. Right. We have definitely felt that.
It's more than 20, I think, in a lot of categories. Not all the categories. But it's a lot. So the economy is huge.
Yeah, you just go out to
too many
see what happens.
New laws they have to follow. Too many things for a company that raises their cost.
Right.
And so therefore, all of those new regulations is killing us.
Yes.
And you look at the previous administration, they reduced regulations. They didn't increase them.
Right.
So that all...
No, there's a cost of business of all of the government.
That's right.
And it's not just business taxes, it's also regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So...
but who's making the money? Who's making the money off the inflation?
Who's making the money? The big guys, right?
Yeah, all the big guys.
Yeah.
So when we went through COVID... Who stayed open?
Yeah, the Walmart stayed open.
Walmart stayed open. Amazon stayed open.
Right.
Google stayed open.
Right.
Okay?
And if you were a liquor store, you could stay open too.
In the liquor store. But you couldn't go to church.
No, you couldn't go to church.
You couldn't go to church.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And they even arrested our pastor here.
Yes, absolutely. Right here in Baton Rouge.
Okay, right here in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
So the trust level in our institutions
has been eroded.
Has gone to the basement.
It has, right.
And frankly, for good reason.
Yes, right. And they're below used car salesmen now, I'm sure.
Well, no, used car salesman looks good.
Yeah, they look good now. Right.
Excuse me. They do. They look good compared to what we've got.
Yeah.
Because you can't believe anything.
Yeah, you have to look at your own experience, and maybe you live in a bubble and you don't see it or don't feel it. Maybe, you're independently wealthy, and so,
Yeah, wealthy people, they don't feel that.
Yeah, they don't notice it the way someone who's trying to pay rent would.
That's right.
Exactly.
And look, God love her, a little gal that was advertised, she would do yard work and stuff like that. She worked at a nursery, and she's trying to make a little extra money to pay her rent and her food. To live. And I hired her to do work in my yard, and she's done a great job. And can you pay me today? I need to make my rent.
Right, exactly.
And I've been more the money,
and that's living from hand to mouth.
And that's living from hand to mouth.
Right.
And if you run into people like that, the Christian thing to do is to help them.
Absolutely.
You help them. You don't just turn your back and say, "I wish you well."
Right.
So anyway, I get emotional about those kind of things because it's real people.
Right.
It's not the TV screen.
Yeah. Economists say is kind of an abused phrase because you can find an economist on any side of any economic issue, and as you say, they sometimes side with, more philosophically with some group than they do with their own numbers.
Well, the Keynesian economists, they think that they can control things. They can't control the market.
Well, the Soviet Union told them that. When that ended, they came over here and they said, we thought we could control the prices of 94,000 things every morning.
Didn't work.
And so we had a whole lot of extra tractors, but people couldn't eat.
That's right. Yeah. No food on the table.
Yeah, no food, but we had tractors. Yeah. Okay. So let's see.
I think from a standpoint of which the definition, or not definition, but the explanation of the values for one party versus the other. Republicans have always had the idea of small government, smaller government, less regulations. And the Democrats have, for all my lifetime, have wanted to control everything. They wanted central control. And they wanted to set the standards and everything that you live by. And that has not worked. It has not worked.
No.
We need guidelines.
Yep.
You need ditches, for companies and individuals so they don't go to extremes. But the extremes of, well, you can't do this because you're threatening this one little tadpole that's been there,
Yeah, the snail daughter. The snail daughter.
Exactly. So for me, I put a plus under the T chart, plus and minuses. I put a plus for the Republicans when it comes to the economy.
Yeah, although the federal debt has continued to increase.
That's a different question.
Yeah.
That's a different discussion. Yeah. That's not necessary. Well, it is about the economy because when you got the government, the government is spending 25% of our GDP.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's the deal.
What kind of percentage are you going to depend on?
Right.
So, talking about the currency and printing money and all that, that's a whole different layer of complexity.
And that's how inflation occurs, is when you print money that you don't really have.
When you jump $2 trillion into an economy that's used to half of that or less than half of that.
Costs will go up. Yeah. It's sort of like the university system where if the federal government makes free money available to go to school, well, it wasn't supposed to be free money. It was supposed to be a loan. Right. But if they make all available, guess what? The costs of doing an education just continue to go up.
Well, sure.
Because there's more money available. So
that's right.
And I was part of that system. So.
Yeah. Well, everybody tries to make decisions in their own best interest.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So what is government's job is to
stay in business.
To stay in business. Well, to try and level the playing field, to keep it fair.
Yeah, right.
That's what we want. Is we want fairness. But we want a merit system. We don't want it just because you got one blue eye and one brown eye.
Right.
Okay. This should not be about your physicalness. It's about your character.
Yep.
And about your ability to perform, your competence. And we've lost that in most of our.
That's this vocabulary change that we've had to undergo, which is the equity.
The DEI.
The DEI. Equality sort of thing. And it's always been the case of, do we want equal outcomes or do we want equal opportunity? And the latter is what we should prefer. But the former is what some people strive for. And you can give 100 people each $1 million and you come back in 5 years and there's 30 of them that have no money whatsoever. And there's some people who have $5 million now because they put it to use. So you're never going to get equal outcomes at the end because humans are not that way.
No.
They all have different interests and they all have different skills, and that's what happens. So let's get into the idea of immigration. I know that's one of your two big ones that you named early. So how do the parties differ there as far as you're concerned? What should we be concerned or interested in?
Legal immigration. No illegal immigration.
I'm there.
It's just what this administration has done to our country is they have ignited an invasion. We've been invaded by people who probably want a better life.
Yes.
Okay? Yeah. They want opportunity.
Hard to fault the individuals who are
this is not about those people, although there's a big percentage of those people who are military people who are coming from other countries that are being sent here.
Right. And a disproportionate number of males.
And a disproportionate
fighting age
of people who have a criminal background.
Yes.
Or they've come from an insane asylum.
Yeah. Remember when Castro opened the jails in Cuba?
And Venezuela did the same thing.
Right.
So we have this is a very serious issue because it's gonna affect us right here.
Right.
Right here.
Especially along southern United States. This is where we see a lot of
it. And the border states, because they've been flying them directly in there from cities outside the country.
Right.
I mean, we've all kinds of videos you can see.
Right. I don't think any normal red-blooded American would object to immigration because it's how we all got here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So and we want people to come to the country.
We need people.
And we need people because our birth rate has gone to the basement.
Yeah, it's below 2.
And that's a whole nother episode. That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one some other time. But yeah, so we need a healthy immigration system, but we need one where the rule of law is held. So if that means we increase the number of people that we let in legally, that's we can talk about that. There's no reason why.
But you got to vet every person. You just can't take them at their total word. You know,
right, exactly. So that's a real issue is how to handle that. I was listening to.
We have the laws.
Yes, they're in place.
The laws are in place. Laws are in place.
Yeah, they're not enforced.
And we haven't impeached the people who have been breaking the law.
Right. Well, we tried with one of them, and it didn't quite make it all.
Again, we've got a weak Congress.
Yes, right.
Okay, so we can lay that directly at their feet.
Right.
And our Speaker of the House right now, who's from Louisiana.
Yes, Ron.
He is very, very guilty.
Yeah. He's
malfeasance as a speaker.
He's too timid.
I don't know what he is. I don't know the man.
Well, his behavior
but his behavior is almost as bad as our representative that we had here.
Yeah. Yeah. So
who gave away the store.
Yeah.
Gave away the store to give an increase in the budget and no accountability.
Right.
No accountability.
We don't care where it goes.
We don't care where it goes. Oh, and you don't have to report how much it is.
Right.
You know, we're just going to sign up for $2 trillion in the increase in the debt.
Yes. Right.
And no timeline.
Yep.
No timeline.
Yeah. And now we'll find out what's in the bill.
It's Garrett Graves, if you're wondering who I'm talking about.
Yeah. But
by the way, let me make one point. I met with Garrett Graves right after he made that pact with the Democrats. And I told him, I said, how could you do that? How could you go and give us this increase and not even put a timeline on it?
Right.
Nothing.
No responsibility.
None. No accountability whatsoever.
Right.
And he had no answer.
Right.
He had to move on. Say, well, we did what we had to do. And that's, again, that's a backroom deal.
Yeah. Right.
It's a backroom deal. And we got to get rid of those. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but man, that gets my blood boiling.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, absolutely. So these are a lot of the issues.
So immigration. What about you on immigration?
Well, on immigration, I'm for legal immigration. Okay, and I'm fine with increasing that whatever's in the law for the number to a bigger number.
Right.
I'm for vetting the people that come in so that we deal with the health issues and the violence issues that are potential in people coming to, and even the terrorism issues that are involved in that. So you've got the vet people that are coming in, and just following the law. Now, what I'm not for is some cliches that have come out of the Republican presidential candidate's mouth that says we're going to deport 20 million people. So I'm not for that because it ain't going to work and it's not going to happen. So it's rhetoric. It's red meat for his constituency. That's not a solution. Oh, well, it might be a solution, but it's not going to happen. So why are you doing
How many people would it take to deport?
Well, it might only take a few 100,000 to actually fix most of the problems. This is even stronger than Pareto's rule of 80-20.
I understand. I know about Pareto's rule. I'm just saying that there are people here that need to be deported.
That's absolutely true.
Okay?
Absolutely true.
So now he may have overstepped.
I think it's rhetoric. Okay.
I agree. Well, he does. I think, remember, he's the master at the deal.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right.
He knows he's an influencer of
That's his going in position. Okay.
In his position. He's trying to get the energy up.
Absolutely.
Trying to get the energy up.
Get people fired up for it.
And we need people fired up.
So I know it's rhetoric. The other side will use it as fodder for the cannon to shoot at him.
Sure.
He's not going to end up at that position. We all know that. But there are people that need to be deported. We know that.
There's gangs running around this country.
Well, hey, it's not just Colorado now.
No,
Aurora.
it's everywhere.
San Antonio had 4 hotels or apartment complexes, rather, that were they're in the control of the Venezuelan gang.
It's going to happen all over the country.
And so why doesn't that happen just here? It could. As soon as they decide to do it, it could. Right. And they went in and arrested 19 people, but are they out on the street again? Or are they going to deport them? I don't know the answer to that question, but we know what should happen to that. So I'm just.
I think you bring out a good point, and it's really for people that are watching this or listening to us. Don't take what either party says as being totally that truth. Okay.
Right.
I mean, they say things for effect.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And they get that effect.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And
it's going with the energy that's there.
That's right. Because it's human nature. We know that we've been wronged.
Right.
We know that these people don't belong here. Let's get them out of here.
I'm in Springfield, Ohio, and all of a sudden my city increases by a third. And there's no resources to handle the people, and they showed up overnight, as you know, in several years worth. So there's issues, and
But why was immigration successful in the early years of our country? The reason it was mainly successful is that when the people came here, they assimilated.
They did.
They learned the language.
Right.
They learned the civil laws that we have.
Right.
We haven't been doing that.
Right.
We have not asked people to do everything in English.
We've allowed
That's our language. It's not Spanish.
Right. It's not in the Constitution, unfortunately, but it'd be nice if it was. We've allowed people to build conclaves and so forth.
And there's nothing wrong with people living together that have similar views.
But we shouldn't.
But in school and in business and in everything else, it needs to be English.
Yeah. Lingua franca, or whatever that is, the phrase that goes for whatever the language is that we use here. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what the.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the right word for that is.
I know English sometimes.
Yeah. Occasionally we get it, but
it's broken English usually, especially if I'm talking in Lafayette.
So we got a dialect for sure. Okay, so question I have is: are there really only two parties and two options when people go to vote, or is there another option? And if you're a Orthodox Christian, mightn't you look at the another party?
Well, you could if they're on the ballot.
Yeah, and not every state has these.
Not every state has it.
Right. I think Louisiana does have the American. What is it? The Libertarian? Yeah. No, it's not the Libertarians. I wish
American Communist Party?
No. No, this is the. I'm gonna have to find a name. We'll have to say it, but
American Crawfish Party.
I didn't write it down, so I don't have it here to look at. Solidarity. The American Solidarity Party.
Okay.
And the American Solidarity Party, their platform is based on Catholic social teaching.
Okay.
Their platform. Now, are they going to get any votes? Yes. Are they going to get more than a couple dozen? Not clear. So here is a problem that we present ourselves with, is that there's actually, from a ethics and moral point of view, probably a better choice than either of the two major parties. But the pragmatic situation is that they have zero chance of actually winning for sure. Do they even have a chance of influencing?
Right.
It's not even clear that that's the case either.
Because they're not invited to any of the debates.
Right.
You know,
right,
I mean,
exactly.
none of that's happening. I mean,
but if I'm someone trying to figure out what to do when I go into the voting booth, that is a choice in many states where you can look and say, here's someone that I don't have to hold my nose or cringe at from a moral or an ethical point of view.
Sure.
I just know that the vote won't maybe mean very much because it's not going to change the outcome. Although Jill Stein helped change the outcome in an election a couple of times ago.
Right.
So the third parties do have some influence. This one doesn't have the same amount of influence.
And Robert Kennedy would have had an influence.
Oh, absolutely. If he got mistreated so bad by the other guys.
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats wanted to bury him. They wanted to make sure he wasn't on the ballot.
Right. So that's another issue to look at. Another question along those lines is, it used to be a topic of conversation that was, don't be a single issue voter. Well,
we've talked about three issues.
Yeah, we talked about several.
Okay, we talked several issues. I mean, we talked about abortion, we talked about the economy, we talked about immigration.
Right.
Well, I think that was the top three, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
because that's about the biggest things that people worry about.
And the global situation and the proxy wars and stuff like that.
That's the October surprise.
Yeah, and we don't.
But we've got neocons in our government that want war.
Oh, sure.
Because they're feeding the machine.
Yeah.
I mean, Eisenhower told us about that.
We get to ramp up all of the military production.
The Raytheons and all those guys, they got to make their billions.
Got to
make their billions.
Yeah. So I know people used to push back on, the evangelicals and the Catholics and those who were strongly pro-life and say, there's more to it than just that one issue,
There is.
And there is, of course.
There is, yeah.
But there's a difference.
That's a pivotal issue.
There's a difference in the level of some issues.
That's correct.
There's what you call non-negotiable issues.
Red line
in
a
sense,
sand.
the life issues are generally non-negotiable. Those need to be held to, and people are in moral or trouble if they don't hold to it. Candidates are, and bureaucrats. And then there's the prudential issues, which is okay. Our faith would tell us that we must welcome the migrant and the immigrant in some manner. Okay, and we do. We have a system for that.
Yeah, we do.
But it doesn't tell us how to do that.
Right.
So we have a prudential choice there where we can say, okay, let's up this number here that we allow in here. Let's deport the worst elements or whatever. And those will all be prudential decisions. And so we can look at each candidate and figure out, well, who's got the best ideas on how to handle that for the global need. So we have to balance all of that. That's a lot for people to figure out when they go into the
Yeah, but what I mean, maybe you've observed this. It seems to me that the party that's in power, whatever party that is, they tend to make it the agenda all about their side being better.
True.
Okay.
It's like a resume. I'm going to make that resume glow.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. And they don't think about what's good for mankind or human nature.
The common good.
The common good. They don't think about that. Right. They think about, all right, now how do we skew this
so
to make make us look great and the other guys to look like dogs? Okay?
Right.
And so that's what we're left with.
Yeah.
All right? And that's because the devil's been working inside these people. Right? Human nature has not changed in 6,000 years.
Our wills are weak. Our intellects are weak.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I don't wish this on us, but people would wake up in a little depression. When you have to think about what you're going to feed your family and what you're going to eat tonight, your whole perspective and your priorities change.
Right.
And there's a lot of people in the rest of the world that are like that. I mean, we are the best. We're the best economy in the world.
Yeah, our poor people are way better off.
Way better than people in Africa.
Yeah,
or Latin America even.
Yeah, it doesn't take away from their needs, but it just puts things in perspective, Yeah,
being grateful is, it's just something that we've missed out on.
Yep.
We need to be, I don't need to go there. It's not about need. It's about just being human.
Right.
Loving your brother and your sister and helping them.
It's that second great commandment.
Which
is like the first.
That's right. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Staying on the line of faith there. If we get ready to go into that booth to vote and so forth, one of the first things we need to do after we've consulted all these sources and so forth, and try to filter out the noise and get to the truth or the best approximation we can get of it, we also need to have a well-formed conscience, which means that we ourselves can take what we see and put it against a measuring stick that's accurate.
Well, our own measuring stick, because each one of us has a different priority list. Now, some of them are going to be the same, right? Like the three things that we mentioned, right?
But go ahead. Keep on.
The abortion, the economy, and immigration. Right. Okay, so what level of commitment do you have to those issues?
Right.
And which part of those, where do you fall? Where's your value system, your worldview? Right. Where does it stand on the economy?
Right. Which is back to my issue of the forming your conscience.
That's right.
Forming your conscience doesn't mean simply going with what you think.
Correct.
It means consulting the correct and accurate sources of truth and building your conscience so that you can use that in your decision making. So it isn't taking ABC or Fox and using that as my conscience, or my daddy raised me this way, and so now it's part of conscience because we build up our whole value system and worldview from that. But
so what is correct in your description?
That's a good point. Well, it would be
what is correct.
It would be, what would Jesus do? Okay.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay.
What did the Gospels tell us?
Yes.
What has he taught us?
Right. Exactly.
What did the Old Testament teach us?
Right. Right.
And what did the Gospels teach us?
So, yeah, we have to know that. And then, of course, we don't get the freedom to decide what Jesus said and what it meant.
Thank goodness.
we need help with that. And our churches are supposed to be the place where we get some of that help.
Yep.
Occasionally that doesn't work as well as it should, but so
they're human too.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
the issue. See, we're all sinners.
Yes.
Those with a habit on and those without a habit.
Right.
Okay.
So we have that forming our conscience, and today there's sort of a milieu of I have my truth and you have your truth.
Right.
And so that says that I'm automatically, my conscience is fine because it's my truth.
Right.
Whereas we know that there's only the truth with a capital T, and everything else is a derivative from that. So that makes it a challenge too. Okay, so should someone decide not to vote? Is that an option? What do you think, Michael?
If you don't vote, you have no skin in the game.
That's for sure. And
I mean, you are not giving any value.
Yep.
To yourself.
And you can complain, but we're not going to listen.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a cop out in my book. It's a cop out.
Yeah. I think in general, though,
it's also
there's a poll
ignoring your own family and your children, because
Absolutely.
Your vote has an impact on your whole family.
Yes, it will, whether you think so or not.
Yeah, right.
And whether you do so or not.
Right.
Yeah. So it might be, maybe someone gets stuck where they really can't come up with and feel good about any of their choices for one office. They could, I think, in good conscience decide not to vote for that office.
Correct.
But there are a lot of down ticket elements. And as you pointed out, all politics is local. So if you're going to vote for anything, make sure you examine your local candidates and choose wisely.
And the amendments that are coming up.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of little things that they change the wording. They make it so fuzzy that you think you're voting for it, but actually you're voting against it.
Yeah, right. Do I vote yes or no on this?
I mean,
I can't figure it out.
And, they won't give you the simple language.
No, because it's lawyerese, right? Yeah. Well, or legislatese or whatever.
No, I don't know what kind of ease it is, but it doesn't feel like it's the right kind of ease that I wanted.
Right. Yeah. I remember,
kind of like right before I get diarrhea.
Yeah. No, I remember going through the maturing process from the first time I was able to vote up until now, and it's like you sort of walk in and say, oh, gee, I'm either going to vote all no or
that's
I'm going to vote all yes because it's going to pass anyway,
Yeah,
and that's, of course, abdication of your responsibility.
Sure.
But they do make it a little more difficult than we'd like to every once in a while. PAR, do they still exist, or is anything like PAR anymore?
Yeah, there's a few organizations that
not
put
that they
out,
weren't biased in some sense.
No. I mean, they got their own agenda.
Yes,
right. Every organization. There's a local organization that's been pretty active. It kind of came out of the out of the 2020 election when there were a lot of questions about the voting process and the integrity and all that. And locally, it's called LACAG, LACAG.
Right.
And they have a team there, and one of the lawyers is just kind of spends most of his time at the legislature studying all of the
what are they saying?
What are they saying?
Yeah. What
are they doing? Why? What are they justifying this for? And,
who's this going to help?
And they've got a website. It's LACAG.
Yeah, I know, because we always consulted that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and you still don't get all the answers you want.
No. But they're giving you some info.
They would usually say, this is what the proponents of this think they'll be doing by this, and this is what the opponents think. And you can pick a side if you want.
Well, and they make a recommendation.
The right information.
They actually make a recommendation.
Yes, they would.
We'll say yes or no to this, and even candidates that we're for this candidate, and this is the reason.
Yeah.
Or this is the reason.
Because I don't need them to tell me that. So on local issues, it's helpful.
Yeah, I'm talking about just local.
Right.
Yeah, just local.
On national, it's too clear.
No, it's not national.
Yeah. So let's say I go in the booth and I'm about to click for. I'm about to do this and then click on this lever right here because I think this is the lesser of two evils.
70%.
And I'm gonna vote that way. And is my job finished after I do that? Or do I have...
It's just beginning.
It's just beginning. You're casting your ballot, but if you don't like something that candidate has...
You got to voice it.
You have got to say something and or do something.
Right.
So, for instance, if your candidate has got your major issues covered, but you don't like this one, then you need to let them know.
You got to work at it.
Yeah, you got to let them know.
You got to work at it.
We're not happy with this.
No, that's right.
Okay.
That's
and that was one offering that someone made regarding American Solidarity Party. They were saying, yes, we understand you vote for this party. It matches your moral and ethical desires, but they're not going to win. But some people have suggested that may be a message to another candidate that you're not happy with where they stood on an issue. So sometimes a third party vote or a fourth party or fifth party vote might give a message you want to do. In fact, this recommendation came along with what if you're in a state where the outcome is ordained? It's going to be all red or all blue.
Right.
Can you? Does that kind of vote actually help there? And they suggested that might send a message. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Michael?
Well, I have some doubts about that. I think that where you have the most leverage is locally.
True.
To tie it to a national election, we don't have a short-term solution here.
No, there's nothing going to be fixed by either candidate winning.
It's going to be, we're going to go through holy heck.
Right.
Because neither side is going to accept the results. And we don't even know if the results are going to be accurate.
Right.
Okay, so we're
especially
all praying.
Because they're going to be very close.
That's what some people say it is. Some people say it's not. We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. We just know the one thing. There is a lot of money being spent. There's a lot of energy being put into this. And you're not putting that kind of money and that kind of energy into something that you're not getting a return on.
Right. One way or the other.
One way or the other.
Right.
So I think we gotta vote our conscience as best we can. And then afterwards, we got to work like heck to make them do the right thing.
Right. Push back on
the wrong things and then support them on the right things and just say, look, we're not expecting you to be a saint. We're expecting you to do what we're asking you to do because you're working for us.
That's right.
You're working for us.
It's not the other way around.
It's not the other way around. Although you have been doing it the other way around because all of you are millionaires and you go into that job making $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, and you walk out being like a Pelosi.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. I get all excited about this because I'm really against the corruption that's so deep and so wide in our country.
Right. And we've gotten so cynical about it that we sort of say, well...
we just blow it off.
Yeah.
Can't do anything.
Nothing you can do about that.
Can't do anything. Well, you can, but you got to get numbers. You got to get other people to hold hands with you.
Right.
It's only about the numbers. You got to have a group of people that are willing to stand up.
You can scare them into better behavior with the numbers. Right. Or get them out with the numbers.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
You mentioned a good word there, scare. It's fear that motivates people more than anything. That is the strongest motivation for people.
Certainly those people who are self-absorbed. They're afraid of losing something.
I think fear, when you boil down to it, fear is a big motivator. Huge
not
motivator.
the best one, but
I'm not qualifying. I'm just saying that when you look at the category of motivations for humans, fear is the one that all the psychologists say, that's the hook you want to get them on.
Right.
Scare them so much to do what you want them to do.
Yeah.
And look, our government's really good at scaring us.
Yeah.
And so is the media. And the media, well, they proved one thing.
Yeah. If we take up
they're not to be trusted.
They have the jet planes. Okay.
Yeah. They're not to be trusted.
Right.
Figuring out what is the litmus test for the media to be telling the truth. How do you measure that?
Yeah. There's no grade scale.
No, I don't know how you can. I don't know how you, unless you just go get 5 or 6 different inputs.
And you need to listen to what the other side's saying.
You got to listen to them. You got to watch MSNBC. You got to watch CNN.
Right.
And
because we all have this thing called confirmation bias. So
absolutely.
We have this working worldview, and we got these glasses that that filter out the other stuff.
It's a polarized glass. Right. You just turn it 90 degrees and it knocks it right out. Yeah. It's gone.
Yeah. So even the best of us struggle with that.
Oh, we do.
We interpret things to mean what in light of what we have, and we want an open mind, but not so that our brain falls out.
Well, there's a lot of folks, not a lot of folks. I mean, it depends on who you follow or read, but some folks think, well, this is really just a simulation we're in. This is just a movie.
Does Musk think that?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't. There's some people that do. Yeah, some people think, well, there's alternative realities. Okay, and the one that we're in is a simulation.
Yeah.
So, how do you impact that reality?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, some people say, well, just take a few shrooms and you'll be fine. I'm not there.
Yeah, even though that's a very grand illusion.
It is. Illusions are what the media is all about.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And Hollywood. Look at Hollywood.
Right. Yeah. So,
sorry, we're getting off the track here. I apologize.
Suspend your...
Y'all forgive us, okay?
Anyway, well, have we covered the waterfront yet?
Well... The one thing we need to tell the audience, so we're going to put some links,
yes,
for people to go study things and look up things. We're not picking sides. We're just, the things that we know, we'll just put them in there and go look at them.
Right. Yeah.
Educate yourself.
Right. And we mentioned early on the platforms. If you haven't looked at these things,
look at them.
You obviously have to go look at them.
Yeah, read them. Yeah. Now, if you don't, you get what you put in.
That's right. G-I-G-O.
If you don't do your research and you don't study it and read it and think about it, or just talk to people. If you don't like to read, you just listen to a podcast of several of them.
Right, exactly.
Or talk to your friends or your neighbors. If people don't start dialoguing about what's going on, then we're all kind of in the dark. We need to have a consciousness that permeates all of us, that we're in this together, for God's sake.
And certainly whatever happens the 5th of November, we'll all have a really grand Thanksgiving conversation with those on the other side of the aisle, right?
The way things are going, I'm not sure it'll be settled by Thanksgiving.
Oh, no, it's not. In fact, legally, it's not required to be settled
until January 6th.
Yeah. They have electoral college deadlines, and the states have certain deadlines, so they got like a month before they have to actually certify their election.
Right. So, and they could do a lot of things. I mean, you don't. The 3-letter acronym agencies are the ones that are the most distrustful.
Right.
They're the ones who have the power to make changes.
And unfortunately, we've seen at least incompetence in several of those agencies in the last year or more, where, things happened that shouldn't have happened if they had been doing their job. And we think there might be even worse than incompetence available.
There's certainly been nefarious acts.
And the administration who's in power gets to affect some of that, but the state's so big, they don't get to affect every bit of that.
No, it's always the middle that takes care of all the business.
Exactly.
Right? So the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, all of those guys.
So go out and form your own 3-letter organization and do something good.
Well, we have some good organizations that are doing good.
Yes, we do. How about this LRA?
Louisiana Republican Assembly. We had a previous organization called Louisiana Conservatives, and when we went to a conference and we discovered the LRA from Florida, it actually started in California. So there's like 33 states that have LRA chapters.
That's significant.
So we started one here in Louisiana. We have a website, lra.com, I think it is, or it's .org. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, it's just people that have a similar conservative worldview and want to impact local politics, where the mission is to write legislation and get it sponsored to help people here in the state of Louisiana, and to support candidates that are of like mind.
Right.
Okay. And that's about it. Now, you can see all the things that they basically believe in, and there's some specifics that are missing there, but the generalities are, it's always God, family, and country. That that if you wanted to pick the main ones.
Right. So is this this is not a wing of the RNC?
No, okay. No. We're associated with the Republican Party, but we're not paying any money to the RNC.
Right. And is it focused more on the local situation?
All local.
All local. Okay.
All
this
local.
is really good.
Yeah, it's all local
because that's where it starts.
That's where it starts.
Absolutely.
I mean, you got to get your house in order before you go anywhere else, right?
Exactly.
I mean, the good Lord taught us that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, get your own self fixed, and then work with your family, and then work with your community.
But we're all having to refix ourselves every so often, right? Because we're all sinners, right?
Absolutely.
And so we have to go through that stage of admitting what we've done wrong and try and do better.
Yeah, and get up and take one step more in the right direction.
That's right. Keep going in the right direction if you can. Oh. I think I lost where we were going with that.
I think we were going to end the show with a prayer, right?
Oh, we were.
Would you lead us, Michael?
I will. I want to this is one of my favorite prayers. It's glory be to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Michael.
Good. Thank you, Harry.